and welcome to episode 7 of the Shanty Knits podcast. I am your host, Chantal. I am coming to you from Midwest, United States, and I am here for another episode. I have 3 FOs for you, 2 whips, and 1 upcoming project that I'm working on. I will also be discussing our giveaway at the end of the episode. So if you want to see if you are one of those winners, stay tuned for the end of the episode. But other than that, the 2 of the 3 whips that I'm going to talk about today are actually released now. So you should be able to get them, or at least by the time the podcast goes up. Not like now, but by the time the podcast goes up, 2 of the 3 patterns will be available, unlike when I do my other finished objects that are test knits that aren't available for a couple weeks. These ones are available now. But you don't care. I can be found on Ravelry as, I had a brain fart there, Ravelry as Shanty Knits, and on Instagram as Shanty_D. Either one of those places, feel free to reach out to me, ask me any questions, or just chit-chat. I'm more than happy to do that with you. I think that's it. Doing the thing monthly kind of is good and bad. Monthly because I have a lot more stuff to talk about, but also bad because I'm still kind of new to the podcasting, and I feel like every time I do my introduction, I'm missing something. But usually when I watch it back afterwards, I'm like, no, you have to be more confident. You're not missing anything. I feel like I am every time I do it. And then I second guess. And then I end up recording 4 or 5 introductions when I really only needed the 1. So I'm not going to do any more recording. That's my intro, and I'm sticking with it. So my first finished object is the Tarawella. It is a pattern by Audrey of... This one is different. So the pattern itself is designed by Audrey of the Yarn Flakes, but you can't buy the pattern from Audrey. You have to buy it for the person that it was designed for, and it was designed for a lady named Anna. I don't remember the name of the shop, and I don't think I wrote it down. I know that her shop is in the French Alps, but it is for an event she's hosting at her shop. So that's what the pattern was designed for. So you can't buy it from Audrey. You can buy it from Anna. And it's just a brain fart as to what her shop is called. But she does, if you're able to go on Ravelry and then you go on my pattern, if you click the pattern name, it should, because I think I did it, it should take you to her page, not Audrey's page, her page, where the pattern can be purchased, and it escapes me as to whether it's a Ravelry download or something from her web shop. But you can get to the pattern on Ravelry, and if you're not able to get on Ravelry, just shoot me a message and we'll try to figure that thing out. But anyway, the pattern is designed by Audrey but not sold by Audrey, and it is a Spanish name. I equally jacked that one up. So French, Spanish, I'm going to butcher it. And you would think I would be much better at that, seeing as people butcher my name all the time. And I don't think it's that hard. My maiden name was, and ironically, it's a French name. But my maiden name, people used to add vowels and consonants in there that weren't even in there. One time somebody put an R in the last of my maiden name, and I was like, that's not even... how did you pronounce that? There's no R in there. But anyway, sidetrack. You would think I'd be much better at names. I'm not. But this is a Tarawella, Spanish name. The original pattern is designed with just the front cable pattern. Then you have the button band that's knit all in one, so back and forth, but you're also knitting the button band, buttonholes, all that in one as you're knitting back and forth. It has a tubular bind off at the hem and cuffs and collar. I did not do a tubular bind off. 2 reasons I don't do a tubular bind off. 1, I find it very tedious. to have a set-up row, and usually when you're doing a tubular bind off, it's at the end of a project. So you're like almost done. Like you're there, the finish line, there, tubular bind off, back here. Anyway, to have to set up the row for a tubular bind off, then to have to gather the extra thread to make sure that you have enough to sew that bind off just seems tedious to me, especially on a large project. 2, I'm not saying it's true. I know it's in my mind, but I'm not saying it's true. I think it uses a lot more yarn than necessary, like other bind offs. Maybe I'm right or wrong about this. I have not put this to the test, but in my mind, it uses more yarn. So, these are the 2 reasons that I do not do a tubular bind off. But, ironically, speaking of using up a lot of yarn, on the hem, but just the hem, I did a 2-stitch I-cord bind off. So it's not massively thick. It does have that traditional I-cord ridge on it, but it's definitely not the tubular bind off look that she was going for in the original cardigan. But I like it. So anyone who's watched this before knows I have a thing for the I-cord bind offs. But yeah, I did the I-cord bind off on my hem. The other modification that I did was I added additional short rows on the back. I am a bustier person, so when I do cropped cardigans, and this one is slightly cropped, it's not like insanely cropped, but when I do cropped cardigans, when I do cropped sweaters, not necessarily cardigans, because usually I don't put buttons on my cardigans. But usually if I do a cropped type sweater, the front raises up significantly more than the back, and it looks really weird, especially depending on what I'm layering it, what kind of dress cut I'm layering it with. Like empire waist, perfectly fine. But if it has like a lower type waist, but not like natural waist kind of thing, it just looks weird. So I doubled the short rows on the back, and that is easy to do in this pattern because you do the short rows in the collar. So this ribbing part, this is where your short rows are worked into. So essentially, you could be done with the whole thing and then try it on and do your short rows. And obviously, I block it first before I put the buttons, but you can kind of hold it and pin it to where it's supposed to be and see how it's going to look, and see if you need more short rows. So I got that length that I wanted from front and back. The other modification that I did was that I added cable stitches on the side. So the original pattern, you just have the front band cables, tubular bind off, and then long hem and cuff. But in mine, I did, let's set this up for you. Yep. I did an extra cable pattern on the side. And to do that, I did a little formula that I put on my project page. Let me move her back because that light is blowing me out. On my project page, I wrote out a little formula if you want to add in the cable pattern on the side of your cardigan. It takes place right after, and actually I don't think I notated that in my notes. I'll have to go back and fix that. But right after you do your cast on for your underarm stitches, the setup for the cable pattern takes place in that very next row, at least how I did it. And the sleeves originally as written are supposed to be tight fitting. So in order for me, I had to add additional stitches for the cable pattern. So in order for me to kind of knit the sleeves as they were written in the pattern, I had to do a couple extra decreases in the beginning. So there is, you're not going to be able to see it, but maybe for the eagle-eyed view, there is a slight gusset in this first part V of that cable pattern. So I made a gusset with those extra stitches for underneath the arm, so it's just not like weird kind of poof thing. What are they called? The little poofy arm thing. So you don't get that effect going on the side. I did a gusset type decrease as opposed to a regular type of decrease, just standard and what's the word I'm looking for? Regular increments of decreases. There we go. I really need to stop talking with my hands. I'm trying. It's not working. But I'm trying. It's the thought that counts, right? But I think that is all, like, metrics wise of the cardigan. Yep. Did I talk about my yarn? I don't think I talked about my yarn. If I did, I'll edit it out. But this is hand dyed by me. It is a 70/30 BFL silk. I think it's superwash. Did I write down whether it was superwash or not? I think it's a superwash. I didn't write down whether it was superwash or not, but I think it's superwash. But it's a BFL silk blend. It's not a superwash. And I did a dark teal greeny type color. It's looking a little bit lighter on camera than it is in real life. It's definitely more, has more depth to it than maybe that light. So it didn't blow me out. I moved her and now it's blowing her out. But it's definitely darker in person than it is showing up on camera. But, let me show you that. So this is without the tubular bind off, and I think it looks fine. I don't think there's anything really wrong with it. So that's without the tubular bind off. That's like the Very Pink Knits bind off thing that she does. It's like when you knit one, well, it's a purl, so you knit one, purl one, and then purl those two together. Then you knit one, then knit those two together. So you're kind of adding that extra stitch without doing that yarn over. So I think it's Jenny's or Judy's, one of those lovely ladies. Their bind off kind of does like a lace frilly type thing that I don't like, where this one, it sometimes does it, but it's definitely more muted than Judy or Jenny's. But that's it. That's what I did on mine. And same thing for the top. I did that stretchy bind off as well. And I think it came out nice. If you want detailed project pictures, I'll add some in here. And then if you want like close-ups, or they're scrolling a little bit too fast because my computer's been acting up recently. But if they're scrolling a little bit too fast and I didn't get the timing just right, they're definitely linked down below on my project page. But that is the Tarawella cardigan by Audrey, but not from Audrey. However that wording works. You know what I'm trying to say. Let me check my notes and make sure I told you everything that there is to know. Oh, the pattern is very size inclusive. It has a 33-inch, which is 84 centimeters, to 63-inch, 160 centimeter bust. And then for my cropped version of it, I used 386 meters total. So it wasn't an intensive, yarn intensive project to complete. If you were looking for something, I wouldn't say it was quick because I did not only the pattern on the front but the pattern on the side, so I had several sections of patterning. But if you omitted some of that patterning, you just have this cable pattern and the button band to keep your interest. I apologize. To keep your interest, and the rest is just stockinette back and forth. If you're not a fan of purling, I do apologize, but there's some purling involved since it is a cardigan and knit back and forth. That is it. If you have any questions, please pop them down below. Be happy to answer them. I will do a wardrobe change to my shawl in the back, and we'll talk about that. That's my second finished object, which is also released. It will be released by the time you see this, but that one is available as well as this one is available. So I will be right back, do a quick wardrobe change. I hope you'll stick with me. So we are back. This is the Ripples in the Ocean shawl. It is by Hannah of the Tales of Yarnia podcast. It is available now, and it is a colorwork and lace with stockinette pattern. You need 3 colors, and for my project, I use Knit Picks Paragon Sport, 50% merino wool, 25% baby alpaca, and 25% silk. I use 430 grams total, and the black, silver, and then the gold is called turmeric. My finished measurements came out to be 89.5 width-wise, so it is fairly wide, and 38.25 for the depth. So it is a larger shawl pattern. I also didn't quite get gauge. The pattern, I believe, is 21 or 22 stitches per however many rows, and then I got 19. So a little bit bigger. I was about to tell you something that related to the gauge, and I forget now. Sorry. Maybe it'll come to me. A lot of brain farts today. So this morning when I woke up, I discovered that I didn't have my yogurt, and it kind of put me in a bad mood. I don't know. Is anybody else like that? Like when they wake up and they have this idea of what they're going to eat for breakfast? Like, and if they don't have that, it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day. Especially when it was something like so simple, like yogurt, some nuts, and some cranberry. And come to find out, there's no more honey yogurt, just plain yogurt. And that's, I mean, essentially I have yogurt. First world problems, you don't care. So anyway, feeling a little sluggish, feeling a little off. So please pardon my lack of word use. Let's go with that. Lack of word use. But shawl pattern, these, it's not traditional color work. These are motifs, slip stitch motifs. So truly you're only carrying 1 color per row. In the pattern, she does have you snip each of the edges when you change colors. So even like right here, you would snip these and then change to the color. However, what I did was carry the color not on the edge, but in the first or second stitch of the garter ridge border, garter border. So in that garter border, but not on the edge, I've carried that yarn in the first or second stitch. So it's on the back side, carried up through the back. So I didn't have to weave in all those ends. But if you do choose to cut and weave in ends, more power to you. But also, just to note, all the color changes don't take place on like the right side. Sometimes you'll have them on the wrong side. So you're not weaving in ends all on one side. and adding weight to that one side with all those ends, or bulk to that one side. So it does alternate where those colors are changing, so you're not weaving in ends at one time. So that is a thought that's taken into account in the pattern. But if you don't want to weave an end, so like here, I carried up the yarn all the way. Here I carried up the yarn, and then there is a larger, which you cannot see, a larger stitch motif at the base. Carried this, and then here at the bottom. So my modification for this, other than making it larger than what it's called for in the pattern, this is supposed to be color, we'll say it's color B, but this is supposed to be the black right here. So you use up a small portion of this contrast yellow, because this is supposed to be black. I didn't have that much black left, so I had 3 balls of each, and I didn't think that I had enough black to finish the whole lace motif. But because you use such a small amount of that gold, I switched the color and did the gold as the border. And also black, why would you do lace in black unless it's like really, really traditional, like lace weight, lace. Because you're not going to be able to see it unless you wear something contrasting underneath. And it's such a small portion of lace, I didn't want it to get lost in the black. Like if it was all over lace, maybe, but that small portion of lace, I definitely want bang for my buck, for lack of better words, but bang for my buck on showing off that lace. It's a very simple lace pattern. If you are a true viewer of the podcast, you'll know I absolutely love me some stitch markers. I will use stitch markers. I think I used stitch markers for this pattern up at the top, and only when it was large. Like the smaller patterns are easy to see where color changes are supposed to be happening. And once you do it a couple times, you actually can see that it's supposed to be making this kind of hill, peaks, and valleys kind of thing going on. So you'll be able to read it after you do it a couple times. It's not charted, so for the visual people like me, where you can look at a stitch pattern and automatically see, oh, this is what's supposed to be happening. You don't have that. You just have slip, 3, knit, 2, repeat across the row. So you can't, well, I can't. Maybe some people are more gifted than I am, but not maybe. There are some people that are more gifted than I am. So you'll probably be able to see what that pattern is doing. I cannot visualize that, especially if it's not in a chart. Like if I have written instructions and then like a small chart where only a certain portion of it is charted, I can kind of figure it out because I have that visual representation of it. But when there's absolutely no chart, I have no clue as to what's supposed to be going on in this stitch pattern. Like I cannot visualize it. Like it's deer in headlights. Like seriously, I'm looking at the pattern like I just can't, I cannot see it. And unless I chart it or plot it myself, I cannot see it unless it's done. I'm a visual person 110% of the way. Rambly, I'm sorry. So, the lace pattern, like I said, it's very easy. You do, I would say it's like a stacked lace. So essentially it's the same lace repeat. However, when you finish one repeat, if you have, and it doesn't tell you in the pattern like, oh, you're done with a repeat, it's like you see, you can't see, but you see this first portion right here. So that's one repeat. And then you're shifting your markers to, because of the increases on the edges that are happening, you have enough for another couple repeats of the pattern. So you shift your markers, but it's not in the pattern as to you're shifting your markers. So it confused me because I am a marker queen. It confused me because up until that point, everything was working out within the markers. So I knew it wasn't one of those like shifting lace patterns where markers are pretty much useless, like you have to read your knitting. Um, so it wasn't like that. And I, for the life of me, couldn't figure it out. And then, because it's a test pattern, I reached out to Hannah and was like, hey, is this a mistake or is this supposed to be shifting? And she's like, no, it's shifting. And again, when she explained it to me, I was like, oh, duh, because you've done those increases, there's room for other repeats, duh. But because it wasn't in the chart, and I honestly could not visualize it. Like, that is my handicap. But modifications on this one, other than the gauge and the yarn choices, at the bottom, you just finish off with your color, what do we say, B? So you just finish off with your color B. But I striped it on the edges because, I mean, I think it adds an extra pop, and I thought it would go because you're doing stripes and garter ridges all throughout here. So when you do your garter ridge at the bottom, why not make them striped as well? So I did my stripe with my last bit of black. And I think I have about 7 grams of the black left. And because I didn't feel like playing yarn chicken or tinking back, I was just like, we're done. We're going to cast it off here, and we're done. But in all honesty, probably with those, I think it's 6 to 7 grams, probably could have did another repeat and then bound off in the yellow. But it's fine. It's fine. I think that is everything about that. Very easy, very straightforward. A lot of Hannah's shawl patterns, if you haven't knit them before or have only knit one, a lot of her patterns are advanced beginner friendly, but they also are for the advanced knitter because you have your points of interest, but you also have like your large areas of break. So these stockinette panels right in here, that would give a beginner a break from having to follow a pattern or just constantly look at a pattern if they couldn't like start to figure out what's supposed to be going on and read their knitting. So you do have those breaks, but for an advanced knitter, you have a colorwork motif. You have a lace pattern, and you can do as many colors as you want. You can modify it however you want. If you're like a prolific shawl knitter and you can visualize without the chart and see what's going on and find ways to modify it, like, I love her shawl patterns. Besides liking Hannah as a person, and I think she's awesome, I love her shawl patterns. They give you that popcorn, potato chip, whatever it's called, knitting sections, but then you also have these areas of interest that if you are an advanced person, once you figure out what's going on, super easy to read. If you are a beginner, it definitely challenges you, and it's not so difficult that you get frustrated, and it's one of those whips that you put to the side for a year and a half and finally go through your whips like, oh, I should probably finish this. No, it's not one of those. So, if you haven't taken a look, please do take a look at Hannah's patterns. She's definitely a great shawl knitwear designer. I haven't knit any of her socks, but she does have quite a few sock pattern designs. As I've discussed previously, I'm not a huge sock knitter. I did start a pair of sock that's coming up in my whip section, but it's just the vanilla sock. Like, I'm not prolific enough to be like, I want to knit this sock pattern. No, I want a pair of socks, and I'm going to do some endless stockinette toe up. That's what I'm going to do. And it'll probably take me 4 months to finish those socks because they're socks and they're not like a shawl or a cardigan. Like, I get excited when I'm done with work to like come home and knit on a cardigan. Like, I don't have the same excitement, and I'm not saying anything in offense to anyone who enjoys knitting socks. I don't have as much excitement when I go home and like, oh, I have socks to knit. It's, oh, I have socks to knit. Like, But that's just me. Sorry. So that's it for this finished object. Last finished object, and the pattern is not released. It is, and it's all wacky on this sock blocker because it's my sock blocker and the sock is for my husband. So it's huge on my sock blocker. I don't have sock blockers for him, nor do I think I would ever get sock blockers for him because he doesn't take care of his socks. I mean, I knit them for him, but he throws them in the washer and the dryer, and then they end up doing something weird that I have to fix, which is fine. It's fine. Like, I get in a mood, I knit socks. They're nothing special. They're vanilla socks. Here's a pair of socks. Here you go. But this was a test knit, and I love Ellie, so I wanted to make sure she had enough testers for all the sizes. So I didn't jump on the test right away. She had put out a call on her Instagram that she was looking for testers, and then I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, she still said she needed testers for the largest size. So I said, hey, I'll test that for you. It'll fit my husband. I'll go ahead and test that for you. So I did the largest size in her pattern. It's not going to fit, and it's weirdly placed on the blocker just so you can see the pattern. And I'm learning my close-up and everything like that. But that's the pattern. It's a super simple pattern. It's a shorty sock. And it's, was it toe up? I'm pretty sure it was toe up. It's been a minute, but I'm pretty sure it was toe up. So it's a toe up design. Yes, it is toe up. Because in the pattern she says the leg of, or the foot of the sock will look long, but to trust the pattern. So that is written in there. So you guys just trust the pattern and it'll work out for you. But that is my husband's sock. It's the largest size. I believe it's the 8.5 circumference, something like that. It's DK weight. I hand dyed this. This is the same color as the cardigan, but it's on a different base. So that is the difference in those hues and how it came out. Like this one definitely has a lot more white area to it, but it's also a DK weight and a loftier yarn. It's also BFL though, but it has a lot more white spots to it. This is a BFL nylon blend, hand dyed, short row heel. I'm not used to talking about socks, so I have to think about what I'm supposed to be saying. Short row heel, and then it has a decorative cast off cuff. So you're not doing traditional ribbing, it's just a cast off kind of cuff that has a little bit of texture on it. These aren't meant to be like traditional socks. They're branded as slipper socks, so something that you use around the house, hence the DK weight. And they're definitely thick. They're knit at a tighter gauge than you would normally knit DK weight. Obviously it's a sock, so you need to knit at a tighter gauge, but they're knit at a tighter gauge for DK weight, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. I knit one sock almost all the way through in one night, and definitely by the end of the night I had some hand pain just because of the tightness of the gauge and the small needles and the thickness of the yarn. So it may take you a little bit longer to knit just because you have to take a little bit more breaks, but it was a good pattern. It's definitely an easy pattern for as far as socks goes. It's DK weight, so it does work up fast. However, the only thing you need to know for it is knit, purl two together, or is it knit two together? I think it's purl two together, and then knit front and back. And I think those are the only stitches that are used. Depending on if you do, because I did a short row heel, so obviously I needed to know how to do short rows. But depending on what type of heel you put in, those are the only things that you need to know to get this stitch pattern for this sock. It doesn't fit, but that's the sock. And same color. So that color came out really nice, and I was like, we're going to use up every ounce of this color. So I prepped some DK weight to go along with that. I have an extra skein of that because I did 200 grams of that DK weight, and that sock only used up 100 grams. I definitely thought I would need a lot more than that because it's my husband's foot and it's large. But it came out perfectly. I think I was just thinking regular leg and cuff as opposed to shorty leg and cuff and not like slipper sock kind of sock. So I have an extra skein of that left over that I have no idea that I would use for because it's one skein of BFL DK. So maybe color work somewhere, something or other. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to edit everything that doesn't need to be in here out. But if I don't manage to get to it, like I said, I've been having some issues. But if I don't manage to edit out all of them, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm so rambling this morning. Like I complained to myself about yogurt for like 45 minutes. Like every time I thought about it, I just got mad all over again. So that's my type of morning. But I'm trucking on. I am looking forward to the things that I'm going to be knitting tonight and hopefully editing this podcast and it going super smoothly. But anyway, moving on. Tea and then whips. Let's do tea first. So my tea, I'm drinking a bag tea today. And it is Organic Bangkok by Harney and Sons. It is a sachet, so it's not like the traditional square bags. It's the pyramid sachet, silken sachet, fancy. It is organic green tea with coconut, vanilla, ginger. It is one of their classic specialty blends, which means like they have it all the time, and you can get it both loose and bag, so it's definitely one of those hot seller kind of teas. And I love it. It's definitely a refreshing green tea. It's probably the blend of the coconut and ginger. I love coconut and I enjoy ginger. But I love coconut and I love mango. Like, those are two things, like, if you told me, like, yeah, it's coconut covered mango flies, I'd be like, I might try it. It does have coconut and mango. Like, it's one of those, that's my Achilles heel of anything. Like, you tell me it has coconut or mango in it, you got yourself a deal. Anyway, rambling. Moving on. Tea. I'm going to get a couple sips of my tea, and then I'm going to grab my works in progress, because two of them are in just regular plastic sheet things, and I don't want it to crinkle too much. Because last time I was editing my podcast, my husband was watching TV, so I had to wear headphones. And that crinkly, that's some serious stuff right there. So I'm going to cut real quick, take a couple sips of my tea in my Ursula mug. Almost forgot the best part. In my Ursula mug. Disney swag. You pay an arm and a leg for stupidness. Because you bought it at the park. That's my Ursula mug. And I will be right back while I reposition some things and hopefully tell myself 50 million times, stop rambling, stop rambling, stop rambling. And then I'll be back with you and hopefully not rambling. Okay, so we're in the home stretch. I just have 2 whips for you. And then the giveaway announcements, and then some yarn, some Tarhi yarn that I got. It is lovely. Can't wait to use it. I wish you could feel it, but that's later down the road. Anyway, my first whip is test knit from Audrey of the Yarn Flakes. Surprise. It is called the Kyrell Wrap Stole Square. It goes around. Wrap. I think it's called a wrap. But I know she has other patterns that say stole. It's a wrap. It should be available in early October. My deadline is the end of September. What are we in? September? August? What's today? August 31st. So, I would have thought that it would have been 1st of September because of the crappy morning that I had this morning. I would have put money that it was the 1st of September. Not like astrological type of thing, but just because why wouldn't that be a way to start off a month? But it's the Chiral wrap, early October. It is knit in 2 halves, and then you do a Russian join in the center to join the 2 halves. She has it knit, how she has it on hers, is knit in 1 color. I did 2 separate colors for the half. I'm knitting them both at the same time, but I'm done with the lace portion of the yellow one, as you will be able to see. Let me make sure they're on the right sides. But I'm done with the yellow lace repeat, and I just have to finish up for the pink lace repeat. So those are the beginning of the 2 halves that I have. You can see how those kind of go together. You have those pops of that gold in the pink, so I thought that would be a nice contrasting color for the yellow. The pink is, I just had that label. I didn't because it's still in the bag. This is Hugh Loco's Hugh Loco soft sock in the Professor Umbridge colorway. And then we have Cloudborne Highland Superwash sock twist. 80% superwash fine Highland wool and 20% nylon. So that's that one. And you can definitely feel the difference in the Peruvian as opposed to the 90 merino 10% nylon. But, I mean, once you wrap yourself in it, all that's going to matter is that it's warm. But those are the 2 halves that I'm working on. Almost done. You can see my lovely stitch markers. They really do help. They make everything, I don't know. For me, it's immediate almost that you've made a mistake in the pattern if it's like increasing or decreasing or yarn overs or things like that. When it comes to just following like a stitch pattern, obviously you still may make a mistake and not realize it till a couple rows up. But like when you're doing like lace or making sure that things have to stay in a certain column, stitch markers to me are liquid gold. Like you cannot beat a good stitch marker and placement. You just can't. In my opinion. You do you. I do me. We'll be friends. My last work in progress is a pair of socks. And I knit my socks 2 at a time. It's nothing special because I just started them. We were planning on doing a drive this weekend. So I wanted to have something that was car worthy because that stole wrap has the lace pattern and I may not be done with the lace repeats by the time we take the car ride. So I didn't want to chance that, but I could have taken, now that I know, I could have taken that yellow part because I'm done with it, the lace part on that one, but I didn't want to chance it, so I started some socks and just was working through the increases. I only have a couple more increases to go before the toe is all done. But some of you may remember this. I frogged my falling leaves sweater, cardigan I was making. This is that yarn that was in that I was using for the colorwork portion of it. Is Mitchell's Creations. It is her sock base. I think it's a 75 25. I think it's 70 or 75. One of those. But it's her Superwash Merino Nylon Blend. And this is called Moonflower. And these ones are going to be for me. Because I haven't made myself socks in years. So these ones are going to be for me. Nothing special. Hopefully during that drive I'll get a lot of that knocked out and be done with that. I knit my socks, since I don't talk about socks very often. When it's fingering weight socks, I knit my socks on 1.5 US 1.5 or US size 2. Just because I like the fabric it makes. There's really no rhyme or reason. I just like the fabric it makes, and they don't hurt my hands. I tried to knit some socks. I want to say it was like towards the beginning of the year, and it made me just fall out of love with socks again. And I want to say it was like US size 0 or 1. It was insanely small, and I was just like, I can't with this. Like, it's taking forever, number one. Number two, like, and I know, like, it'll loosen up once you wash it and block it and everything, but I just felt like the fabric I was getting was almost bulletproof, and I wasn't enjoying it, so I ripped them out, and that was the end of that. I was going to show you the yarn, but I don't think it's readily accessible, because I want to use the yarn. Like, every time I come in here and I look for, like, something that I need for an upcoming test knit, I get to this yarn, and I'm like, I really need to make socks out of this yarn. Do you think I made socks when I said, I'm going to make socks? Do you think I chose that yarn? Chose a whole nother different yarn. One day I'll make socks out of that yarn, because it is split into two 50-gram balls. So it's already ready for me to do my 2 at a time. Whatever I 2 at a time with them, it is ready. Caked up and everything. I have not used it. It is a yarn that is particularly special to me because it is, I think they're called the Fiber Seed, or, yeah, the Fiber Seed. They did a Colorado specific, or I think it was Colorado Springs. It could be Colorado, but they did a Colorado specific colorway, and I got that colorway like when I first moved to Colorado, which has been years now. So it's just like, you have to find that perfect project for it type yarn, and I haven't found it yet. So it's still there, but when I do finally finish it and be like, this is the yarn I was talking about, I finished something, look at it, it's so cute, super cute. But anyway, obviously my pep talk with myself went really well. We are going to move into the giveaway, and then my Tarhi that I want to show you, and the Etsy shop that I got it from, because surprisingly, it's much easier, and I would have thought differently, being like a United States breed, or not United States, North American breed of wool, that it would be more readily available. It's not. So I did find one in a colorway that I liked, and I have one that, when I save up some extra funds, I'm going to get some undyed Tarhi and see how that handles, because I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, back to the giveaway. So my 2 giveaway winners. I know I'm late. We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to gloss right over that like it didn't happen. So I did draw my winners when I said I was going to draw them. I didn't do the rest of what I said, but I did draw them. And my winners are my first place winner. So you get to choose between the mini set and which one of the one skein of the undyed yarn that you want, and whether you want me to dye it or not. Or one of the skeins of the undyed yarn, whether you want me to dye it or not. And the pattern from Hannah of the Tales of Yarnia's Ravelry shop. So, and I do think she has, like, if you're somebody affected by Ravelry, I think she does have like a PDF available through PayPal. Does she have hers on Love Knitting? I know that it's available at least through PayPal, but if you are one of those people and you want the pattern, we can work that out. Cross that bridge when we get there. Anyway, First place winner is Linda Audmark, and I'm sorry if I messed up your last name. And she was number 25. She is from Sweden. So hello from Midwest United States all the way over to Sweden. Thank you for entering. Make sure you tell me which one of the prizes you want, and I will need your address. DM me on Instagram or on Ravelry, and I will get back to you. So Linda Audmark, Audmark from Sweden. You're first. My second place is post number 4, and that is Danielle Boots from Massachusetts. So I want to say hello from Midwest Missouri to Massachusetts. So thank you for entering. I really enjoyed all of the responses that I got. I don't know why I thought they were lying, but like my metrics said, a lot of the people that responded, it was 50-50 though, but a lot of people that responded were from Europe, and then we have some from North America, and then we also had a couple from, I think there was one on there from Australia, and there was another one. Oh my God, because when I read it, I was like, oh my God. Maybe I'll find it and put it in the bottom. But thank you, everyone, for letting me know where you're coming from. That really made my day. I really enjoyed reading through those. I'll probably go back now that it's done and drawn and probably comment on some of those because some of you left some really nice comments. And I have some questions about where you live. So I might be commenting on some of your posts as well as reaching out to those winners. But if you see this before I reach out to you, please shoot me a message, Ravelry or Instagram, and I will do what you want, whether it's to dye them or to send you the undyed yarn, and we will go from there. So that is my giveaway. And my last thing that I want to talk about, and hopefully it wasn't too long, especially with the ramblies. I apologize, guys. It was rambly. Like I said, my morning did not start well, and today was the day that I had to podcast because I'm going to be drained tomorrow. I have to do some interviews tomorrow. I'm going to be drained mentally, physically, just drained. So there's that, and then I have the weekend coming up where we're supposed to be going out, and I'm definitely not going to have time to podcast, so today was the day. It had to work out, and that's how my morning started, but we're going to make it through, because there's no excuse. It's a monthly podcast. Come on. It's not like every couple weeks. It's monthly. You can do it. You can take the 3-4 hours out of your day, sit down, record, and then take 3-4 more hours and edit. Editing is no joke. You don't know this until you do it. Because you hear all the podcasts are saying editing is the bane of their existence. It truly is. Anyway. 2 acquisitions now that I reached over and grabbed this. Something was sitting underneath of it. But this is 60% Tarhi, 40% silk, and it's called Turquoise Metal, and it is from Opalescence Fiber Studio from Hanover, PA. So that is that color. It's about true on camera as it's showing up in real life. I don't know, what's that? A muted cornflower kind of thing? Grayish blue. But that is probably the most true that it's showing up on camera than the blue, but it's beautiful. And, yep. She has hand-woven clothing, linens, classes, fiber, yarn, and used equipment. And that was a shop that I did find on Etsy. And again, that name is Opalescence Fiber Studio. It shipped out really fast, but it was one of her ready-to-ship items. So it shipped out relatively fast. I got it. And now I just have to figure out what I'm going to make with that Tarhi. And it's super soft. It's really nice. I want to try... And it was the only Tarhi that I liked the color of. And the only setback was because I wanted as close to 100% Tarhi as possible that I could get. That one's 60, so... Is it 60? Yeah, 60. So it's high up there, but it's not all tarhy because I don't spin. So for me to experience that fiber, I do it by working with the undyed fiber and as close to the purest content of that wool as possible. Sometimes I can only get a silk blend or a nylon blend or something like that. And it's really soft, but I don't know how much of the silk is playing into that softness or the luster. So that's why I like to start off with like base. That may not matter to you. That's how I experience fiber. I don't spin, so that's how I experience fiber. I would love to get my hand on Romney and Cordale. So if you know any like good Etsy shops that sell some of those bases, please drop them down below. I'd be more than happy to check those out and see what they have, because I want to try out more, I don't want to say like American wool, like North American breeds. There's a better way to say that. I know there is. This side of the world, the sheep that we have, like Tarhi. Brain fart. Like Tarhi. So if you have any suggestions on where possibly I could find some of those brands or breeds of wool in different brands of Etsy shops, please let me know. Drop them down below. Last thing, and then I will leave you away from this hot, rambly mess that we call episode 7. I got these. They were originally for that sweater, but because it's knit all at once, I was knitting the buttons. I was halfway done with the button band, and then I decided, like, I should probably get some new buttons, because I don't have, from my calculations, and they were pretty close, I was going to need 8 buttons. I ended up needing 9, because I didn't read that there was a button in the collar ribbing. So I needed 9. Luckily, the buttons that I ended up going with came in a set of 6, and I had ordered 2 of those, gauging that I would need 8. So I did have enough buttons, but these were the buttons that I had originally gone with, and I think these came in a set of 50. Let's see if I can get this close and focus. Not focus, but close. So this says hand knitted by Shanty. It's an Etsy shop I found while looking at wool. Well, I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. I think I went on there to look for buttons and I left with buttons and wool, or I went on there to look for wool and I left with wool and buttons. Either way, both of these were from that Etsy online surf, and I was hoping that I could use those on that sweater, but they ended up being just a smidge too big, like just a little bit. And had I thought about it or had some kind of foreplanning in my head, I would have omitted, because it's a single yarn over type button loophole, so I would have done like a 3-row buttonhole kind of thing, just so I could use these, because these buttons are awesome. I did not write down the shop, but I will link it down below, so you have the name of the shop. Again, came really fast. I like the work that is being done. I think they're nice buttons. I can't speak to the durability of the buttons because I haven't used them yet, but like if you're just like using them in place of like a tag on a hat or something, should be fine. You're not like stressing them out, like constantly buttoning a top or something. But I think that's it. I want it to be it, because I feel like all I've done is talk nonsense. So much nonsense. So that is the end of my podcast for you today. I appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with me. I hope it wasn't too much of a hot mess. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Please hit the like and subscribe button down below. And I hope that you'll join me next time. All my projects and everything that I talk about should be listed down below as well. So give me that thumbs up. Give me that subscribe. I hope to see you next time. Winners, get in touch with me. Have a wonderful week. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. Bye, guys.